to assault it from the right side coming in. I want these guys to cover us. Hell yeah, nice hit, let's go.
And when I did, I looked over and there was a Russian staring me in the face. He was basically hiding under this stairwell. So I popped back real quick, grabbed a grenade and chucked it around the corner and smacked him with it.
Legionnaires with the armed forces of Ukraine assault Russian bunkers in Pervomaisk. I believe this footage is going to be from 2023 because it references an offensive that was going on in the south. Therefore, the Russians were not expecting the Legionnaires to come from the east. If you want to help me build this channel, you can do that by feeding the algorithm down below. And if you're not subscribed yet, it would be cool if you were.
The Pervo 1 was our first operation into the village of Pervomaisk. It's like 10 kilometers from the outskirts of Donetsk city. Before we'd gotten there, the 59th and a few other units have been fighting pretty hard there to try to maintain control of it. By the time we got there, it was basically gray area or the Russians controlled part of it.
This is the chosen company commander, and I believe that he is a former National Guardsman from the United States.
Our mission there was to clear and hold ground for the Ukrainian forces to come back through and relieve us to then have a secure footing at the frontmost line of that town at the time.
Well, it was an operation specifically for guys that wanted to volunteer to go on this op. I didn't know that. I was just told I was going on the op because they needed medics. And so it was me and Shav didn't go on that one, and Cass. Actually, me and Cass went. That was our first operation together. And I was really worried about Cass because he had never been in a gunfight before, but he did really well.
So this is Cass, who's never been in a gunfight, and he did really well. And you could be the most experienced person and not perform or not do what people expect that you're going to do, or you could be somebody who has no training and no experience and actually do well. If you didn't know this, Marcus Luttrell from, the story Lone Survivor, but Operation Red Wings, told a story on Anderson Cooper where he said that his, SEAL teammate was being shot and he was screaming his name for him to help him. And he put his gun down and he covered his ears because he just wanted to not hear him scream.
And then he started to crawl left. And I was out in the open, waving my hands. I was like, just come down to me. That's all I wanted him to do was just come down to me. And I heard his gun go off and a lot of gunfire in his area. I was trying with everything I had to get to him. And he started screaming my name. He was like, Marcus, man, you got to help me. I need help, Marcus. That it got so intense that I actually put my weapon down and covered my ears because I couldn't stand to hear him die. All I wanted him to do was stop screaming my name, and they killed him. And I put my weapon down in a gunfight while my best friend was getting killed. So that pretty much makes me a coward.
So that's somebody with all the training and all the experience who did the opposite of what most people would think that you would do in that situation. So it's no surprise to me that somebody can come in with no training, no experience, and actually perform well.
I got to Chosen Company 2 or 3 weeks prior to our first mission into Pervo. I'm not entirely sure anymore how much time elapsed, but essentially I was sitting around waiting for contracts and training, and there was some talk of having a higher up tempo compared to some other units. So we always were kind of kept in a more or less ready state.
It was also probably our first main solo operation, as in there was no Ukrainians that were assaulting with us. And it was a village, so you're running into a little bit different stuff than you ran into in a trench.
We probably got the op order for that mission roughly a week or two prior to stepping off. We then start the planning process, our routes in, our transports, the teams are allocated there as well. And then once we have that all figured out, we then start doing up our equipment list, make sure everyone's got everything, make sure everyone's set, everyone who's going is fit and ready to go. And then once the planning for the operation's done is then when we step off to location.
We did get warned, just a warn 48 hours before every op where it's like, hey guys, come on, make sure you have your stuff ready, everything is good to go.
ate chow, talked it over, tried to refine the idea, nail down everything and all the details, and then we got the call. So we rolled out, picked up our stuff, got in the Humvees, and went to the staging area.
The main objective was a position called Kiev. Is the name of the position? Had like had to have been some wealthy person's house. They had a pool in the backyard. It was pretty well built. By the time we got there, it was leveled, but I mean, it was a pretty good fighting position. It covered the north sector pretty well, and also the avenue approach for like friendly Ukrainians and also on the Russian approach. The problem was in front of that position, there was 4 Russian positions, and then also a heavily fortified area just south of it called like Objective Baghdad. The Ukrainians had tried multiple times to take out the Baghdad position. It was just hard. It was well fortified. So on our operation, what we were going to do is we were going to skip past that point and basically push in towards the objective. And then what we plan on doing was basically back clearing from the objective to the Ukrainian side. Talking about it, you know, without having all the information, it's not very smart to run into the enemy's rear and then push back towards friendly. But the biggest thing you got to understand is, like, in the village, because the houses were so obliterated and blown up, there's only maybe 1 or 2 fighting positions that you could shoot from. So like at a house, there might be 8 Russians in it, but there's only 1 place that they can shoot weapons from. And if you can get behind them, you're at their doorways. So that's not a defending spot, you know, because all of their machine guns are going to face west. So if you can bypass them and get behind them, you know, you basically got them beat.
He's saying that they would be at a tactical disadvantage. They wouldn't be able to defend from these other positions, not because they wouldn't be able to bring the gun over there and engage them, but they wouldn't be able to continue to fight from that position, because the bunker position, you can continue to shoot out of that bunker pretty well, because a lot of times even the Ukrainians or whoever's assaulting the bunker doesn't know exactly where that position is, so they can continue to shoot out. Plus it's fortified, and if they're taking rounds, they can continue to keep shooting back. But in an instance where they have to move that machine gun to a position that isn't fortified, that they're not ready to fight from, they're only going to be able to do that for a short period of time and not be able to do it very well, as long as they are providing fire superiority and continue to maneuver.
Infilling into Pervomaisk, we come in on the US donated Humvees. We move in, we infill during the night into the most forward Ukrainian position, and then we held in that position in a cellar throughout the majority of the day until the last few hours of light. The relief in place has enough time to come up under the cover of darkness, relieve us so we can leave under darkness as well. Minimal exposure through light, and at the time, drones, when they weren't really being used at night because of their lack of thermal capability.
Led us to where we're supposed to stage. Most houses were still quite well standing back then, and in a decent shape, I would say.
This isn't really terminology that's used in combat, but there's still some correlation, which is last location of cover or concealment, your LCC. This is basically their LCC, their limit of advance or their line of departure. Both of those last 2 things can change, both their limit of advance and their line of departure. But the point is that they are as close as they could possibly be, but also in the safest spot that they could be before they actually start exposing themselves to where the enemy is.
Take a knee, make sure you can see. No, don't get it out. I'm not. All right, fellas, let's go. Bravo, moving. Fall in behind tangle. Fall in behind tangle. I'm moving.
There was very little artillery going on. Every now and then, some rounds would kind of zip over your head. Whether it was friendly or Russian rounds, I don't know. But you didn't really have to get down. They just kind of zip over your head, stop shooting, and that'd be it.
My team was at the rear of the stack on our way to the objective. moving up to the objective, like Pervomaisk has been a point of contention, I believe, for almost the entire 10 years. The country's been at war with Russia or in conflict with Russia. So there's a lot of unexploded ordnance around.
We have 2 Ukrainian sappers with us, and this was their first combat mission, and they were pretty nervous.
Sappers is basically a combat engineer and seems more or less on the Ukrainian side of the Ukraine war. Their primary responsibility is kind of become laying mines and detecting mines, which is something that, you know, he's going to talk about here.
So we're trying to explain to him that, you know, the position that he's going to be in our formation as we're moving forward to do this. You know, he's the sapper. We know there's a lot of mines. There's like a bunch of unexploded ordnance in the area. Like, we need him up in the front. And he's like, in the front? And I'm like, yeah, you got to be here. You're looking for mines. Like, Mina. And he's like, oh, no. And I'm like, no, chikai, you know, like. And I told him in very broken Ukrainian, I'm like, you know, pidaras strelai, you go to the back, like, давай. And he's like, oh, okay.
2 Ukrainian sappers attached to our assault team. And so we just point them out and we'd be like, you know, mine, make sure the guy behind you knows it, obviously. And then they would, the sappers would come up and just take care of it.
In a combat zone, when you are worried about IEDs or mines, which is seemingly all the combat situations now and the type of fighting that we're doing and probably will continue to do, is a ranger file formation when you're moving with your unit, which is a straight line. The reason is there's just less likely of a chance multiple people will step on a mine. The person in front of you, if you're walking on the same path, will step on it before you actually get there.
But it ended up pretty much being kind of useless because there was so much unexploded mines and grenades and everything. At some point we just kind of like went like, mine. You know, that was it.
We're on the road here.
Found the road.
Roger.
Mine.
Where at?
Up ahead by the sapper.
Got you. Right side, all mines.
Roger. Right side, all mines.
All mines. Roger.
Mine's right there.
Stay off the right side.
2 possible enemy over that direction.
Roger.
2 enemy, 1 o'clock.
Enemy, 1 o'clock.
I guess this is a product of the drone warfare, which is we can't stay outside and maintain an actual post where we're focusing our attention in a certain direction behind a machine gun just in case, you know, we get attacked. We actually have to crawl down inside of holes and hide because we're worried about being hit by a drone. And when you crawl down inside of holes because you're worried to get hit by a drone, well, then you get trapped in the hole and you're just probably going to die.
But regardless, we ended up getting up to the position without firing a single shot. Took out maybe 8 or 9 Russians with some grenades and some holes that they wouldn't get out of. Once we got to the position, we basically radioed back to the Ukrainians saying, hey, you know, we've got positions locked down, send up the reinforcements so we can get the fuck out of here. Initially, they sent like a group of 4 up there, and then they quit sending more guys because they realized that we didn't clear all the Russian positions and we still had to go back and clear it.
So we were making our way through the objective, and one memory that sticks out as well is that's probably where I smelled my first dead body. On the other operations that I went on, although there were dead nearby, I never really, I don't believe any had been there, you know, long enough to smell. And I remember going through and we were walking through the field, cutting through the road, and I remember Lance, he's like, do you smell that? Do you smell that? It's a dead body. I'm like, no shit. It just smells like a dead kangaroo from back home. But it's one thing that I'll always remember, that I guess a dead Russian who's probably been laying there for a few weeks smells like a dead kangaroo back home. So that'll always stick with me. It was interesting. I didn't expect to.
See that body?
I can smell it. I didn't see it.
Oh, dude.
Where was it?
Just to your left, probably like 10 meters back. Skull starting to show.
I still haven't seen a dead body yet, bro.
throw the body?
We're moving through the town, through the village. We can hear some gunfire off in the distance, but nothing too direct towards us. We're moving through, and we start clearing the buildings subsequently as we get closer and closer to Kyiv. We knew where we were going. We had studied the map and the drone footage as much as we can. So we try and do before every operation.
After they fire the
Just for clarification, if it isn't already obvious, they said it previously, but when he talks about Kyiv, that's just the name of their objective, not the actual city itself.
2 rounds, I'm taking these 1, 2, 3 with me. We're gonna assault that building.
Okay.
We're gonna assault. Malfunction! 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 Hey, we're gonna assault it from the right side coming in. I want these guys to cover us. Lance, you're gonna cover 1, 2, 3, 4's approach to that building.
The unit that we believed was there at the time were Storm Z, the Russian Storm Z unit, which is a penal battalion, taking prisoners from their country and giving them the option or forcing them to fight as well. And with Storm Z, their resistance or their ability to fight can range from quite high to low. I guess it just depends on their morale at the time.
There's something terrifying about people that were in prison being offered the opportunity or forced to go fight in a war to either gain their freedom or to get paid. Both of those things I've heard is the case.
During that op, we took minimal fire.
We're moving up on a bunker position to clear it. We go up there to clear it, and Hasty calls up for the GP25. Gimli's got it. And so he gets in, takes position, gets down to shoot, boom, completely whiffs it, goes like 20 meters over the position.
He's got. Miss. Overshot. Get low.
Like way into the field in the back. And we're like, Gimli, what the f? So he's like, oh, okay, reloads, does it again, brings it down way low, boom, hits the ground, ricochets up.
Dude.
Oh my God, dude. All right, that's it.
I find it interesting that as soon as they got to this position here, they're like yelling at each other what they were going to do. I guess they already threw a grenade, and it's probably obvious that there's something going on. But you can always, if you lose the element of surprise, you can always gain it back in some instances. Not always you can do it, but in some instances you can. And it just seems like it'd be a little bit concerning just yelling, because they said they got all the way to this position without firing around. And so I would try to maybe just use whatever I could to my tactical advantage. But maybe I'm missing something, and that's kind of like a pointless thing to be worried about in this situation.
And it probably spud into the ground, probably about 5 meters ahead of him into the rubble. So luckily it didn't explode, but he's like, yep, no, I'm done. I'm not doing this. And I was like, all right, I'll give it a go. I didn't have any sights on my GP25. It was quite old and probably broken as well, but I took it anyway. I loaded the round, aimed it at the building, and I shot it off, and I got it. I'm proud of this. I got it straight through the window into the building. So I was happy with that. Didn't have a sight on it. Didn't have I think that was the first time I fired it as well, and yeah, I managed to get it through the building. So
That was an epic bad fire. Yes, it was. I said I'd never fired it before.
He just said, I said I never fired it before.
Wait.
Hell yeah, nice hit, let's go. Give me on me. Yep, let's go. Moving.
Gimli's a short dude. He's about this tall anyways. So he's in front of me. He goes to jump in this hole and clear it. But as the last second, as the smoke's clearing, he looks down and he sees that this is deep. It's probably like a 9-foot drop. And he steps in and he's like, oh, and immediately grabs back and tries to grab. He's falling in the hole. So I grabbed him. I'm right behind. I grabbed him by his plate carrier, and he had this big old bushy beard. And I got some of his beard in there on accident. Well, not, I couldn't, just I was reacting. So grabbed it and was pulling him back out. He's like, oh, my fucking beard. And I grabbed him, pulled him back out, and he was good. It's funny, because his name was Gimli, and it reminded me of Lord of the Rings, where, it's like, not the beard. And I was just like, oh, this is too perfect.
This was my...
He was talking about him like he was KIA, so I'm assuming that he didn't make it.
My first assault mission. So we had one guy in my team who ended up dying in a later mission. His name was Dubs. And I remember very and it was a funny thing because I asked him, I was like, so what do I do if I freeze up? And he's like, well, unfreeze. And I don't know, at the time it was kind of like, I guess, but in hindsight, it was a really funny thing to say. And
one thing I learned very quickly is that no matter how much drone footage you look at, everything is going to look different when you're there on the ground. Whether something changes from the last time you looked at the footage till you get there, or just, you know, trying to orientate yourself, because all the drone footage is from the sky, so looking at everything from ground level can be quite different, sometimes drastically, sometimes minimally.
On the screen, you'll see an aerial view of the area that they're working in. I don't believe they have drone footage in this video, but this is from the second version of the video, and you could see the difference between what it looks like in the sky versus what they're looking at on the ground.
This building right here.
What's up?
We're assaulting it.
Where at, Jay? Roger. Ready?
Yeah.
Frag!
Good frag. I'm pushing.
Yep.
And we work our way through the houses up to our position. It's been about like 30 minutes. I wasn't really keeping track of time, just, you know, time dilation when your adrenaline's pumping. But we get there and we get to this big position, and then Lance is like, is this Kyiv, position Kyiv? And Ryan's like, no way, there's no way. It's only been like 30 minutes. And then he's like, there's a pool in the back. Sure enough, we had cleared like maybe like 700 meters of an assault lane.
Work the objective.
That way still.
The pool's behind us.
What?
This house has a pool.
Surely not. Really?
Yeah.
Ryder, this is Alpha.
Surely we're not here yet.
Hey, there's another opening in that pool.
Okay.
All right, hey,
Yeah.
we gotta swing around.
Yeah.
We got it.
Hey, we'll swing around that backside, okay?
Hold on, we gotta get in this one and check it. This is our main objective.
Yeah, the cellar inside is completely collapsed. That pool's fucking, it's behind there.
You know, we've cleared our objective. You know, all we have to do now is hold. But Ryan in his ever insistent push was like, hey, we should probably try and see how far we can actually go before we get yelled at for going too far. So we're like, all right, we'll give it a go.
Objective Kyiv cleared. No resistance. Can we move forward?
Hey, Lance is on the left corner of this building, okay?
Lance is on the left corner of the building.
Lance, let's frag it.
Give me the hard left friendly.
We leave a small few guys at Kyiv, and we then push forward to a few buildings ahead of us, probably about 100 or so, anywhere from 50 to 100 meters. We then push forward to clear these other buildings, which we believe are also occupied by, you know, Stormzy as well. About 100 meters from position Kyiv to the east are these mounds of these little hills, right? And they're part of, I believe, the pumping network for the dam that's just off to the north of us, only about 50 meters or so. So we couldn't really see past these on the ground level at least, but we could see down the road. We could see some positions down the road to the east, which were definitely fighting positions as well. We were in clear view, we could never identify any enemy down that route with our eyes, but we believe when we started taking fire further along in the mission, we definitely knew it was from at least that direction or those positions.
So we had to pull back. I think we went like another 100 meters, 150 meters in front of it before they told us, hey, don't go any further.
And then there was this one building, and we named it Red Brick just because of the color of the bricks, right? And it was still destroyed, but we could tell it had a cellar entrance, and the wall on our side, on the west side of the building, was at least still built up. But we went through, we fragged these positions, and then me and one other, we then pushed up to Red Brick. Now on Red Brick, so on the two sides, the north and the south side, you have what look like two entrances. And on the north side, which is where we approached from, there was this little little sort of half window sized hole that we could see into but couldn't see what was inside.
I see the window. I see the hole. Yeah. But it's very small hole.
Okay, it's collapsed.
Get down, get down.
Swing around the left side, Jim. We need to check behind it, okay?
Gotcha.
I went there to the entrance. I had a look down. Couldn't see anything. Didn't get shot at. Couldn't hear anything. It's like, okay, this may not be, either they're staying really quiet or there's nobody in there. So I take a frag grenade. I throw it in. Frag grenade goes off. I don't hear anything. Don't see anything. So I'm like, okay, there's probably no one in there. That's fine. Then very shortly after is when we start taking our first engagement, first direct fire from the east. So at this stage, I had gone back around to the western side of the building to link in with my partner there. We start taking fire, so we then move into position to start fighting. He moves in on the western side of the building. The northern side. I move in on the south side. I maneuver around. I jump into the cellar hole, well, not the hole, but where the entrance is. And then I push forward slightly to take a firing position down to the east. And the moment that I pass the threshold for the door that they were in, I start hearing these muffled shots, gunshots behind me. And I look back behind me and I'm just seeing all these rounds pinging the wall behind me. So I'm thinking, holy f***.
Contact! Where?
Inside the bunker.
So I immediately run back out and around and I start screaming. I'm like, they're in there. There's still people in there. So we now have to do engagement from the east, and now we have to deal with these Russians who have now made their presence known inside the red brick building. I was really lucky. There's a lot of times where I've been really lucky, but that's one of the close ones as well that sticks with me.
And right as we were about to move out,
I will say, though, that if you are going to guarantee that nobody is in that space or a space, you have to physically put yourself in there and check it. I think a couple of times they kind of tell some stories where they thought it was clear, deemed it to be clear, but didn't actually check it, and it turned out that there was an enemy still in that position. Of course, I guess in combat, you could technically make that space unlivable, completely collapse it down, or a trench system, a dugout, where they throw in one of their homemade thermobaric grenades, and it just absolutely demolishes the dugout to the point where we can't even get in there to check it, and it's completely covered, and surely nobody is alive if they're in there, or if they are in there, they won't be alive for long.
we started finally taking machine gun fire from the Russians to our east, and a building that we labeled like red brick.
All right, yep, turn and shoot. Attempt to flare. Red building! Hey, suka! Shoot! Where to shooting? Where to shooting? Here shooting? I don't know. Fuck! I'm hit!
Lance, he took a ricochet to the forearm, and it was only a light wound. He was okay, but they were absolutely spraying that entire area, hoping to hit us or mow us down or keep us there at the very least.
Now you saw that when he got hit, he was basically standing up, and obviously that's not really maximizing your tactical advantage by utilizing cover or concealment or whatever it is that you have available to you in that moment. Of course, at times we have to stand up, we have to move, we have to be in places that are unfavorable.
And there was like a big rubble pile where everybody else was, or not everybody else, but like we kind of split the teams in two. Lance was on this side, he got hit. June was over there with him, and June put the tourniquet on him. And so I'm waiting, because in between this is like a cross sector of fire where we're just taking bullets left and right. So I'm kind of waiting for, like, just kind of like ran through, not like withering fire, but like active fire, went over to help Lance, checked it out, ended up not being a big deal. He's freaking out. He's like, Tango, take the tourniquet off, I don't want to lose my arm. And I'm like, just let me look at it first, man, hold on. Look, easy. I'm like, okay, cool, wrap it, tourniquet off, whatever. And so I'm sitting there with him, and I'm like, wait, where's my med bag? Go. Then I'm like looking, and I'm trying to move him out because he's still like sort of in a bracket of fire. He could get hit again. So I like pulling him back a little bit, and I trip, fall back, and I sit right on a freaking nail. It went right like straight up into my ass. I think that nail's probably got like 6 people in chosen company already.
Now, one of the things that you're taught in regards to putting on a tourniquet is that once you put a tourniquet on, you're not supposed to take it off. You know, a doctor is supposed to evaluate that and take it off. However, you know, even in policing, a lot of officers put on tourniquets when they're not necessary. And that's one of the things that I talked to a medic about in regards to tourniquets, and asking him what are the commonalities that he sees, you know, mistakes or whatever that officers make. And he said, well, a lot of the time they put one on when it's absolutely not necessary. And you could, you know, do more harm than good. It would take a while to actually do that. And so they do teach you that once you put it on, you don't take it off. However, if somebody assesses it and goes, you do absolutely not need this tourniquet on you, I'm not advising you to take it off, but you will see qualified people removing them when they're absolutely not necessary.
We then proceeded to try and assault red brick. Probably anywhere from 3 to 5 times. Unfortunately, they are quite well dug in.
Red building, huh?
Yeah, red building.
All right. Sit down.
Good night.
Oh, that one was close to me, bro.
Yeah, that was close to us, man.
Yeah, sorry.
Don't worry.
As many times we launched many rockets there, RPGs, bull spikes, all had little to no effect.
That was a really awesome shot right there.
Yep. Nailed it.
We disengaged those dudes, kind of shooting at them, suppressing them, hitting them with rockets, and with some drone support as well, dropping maybe thermobarics, I'm not sure. But until it got about dark.
There were times where me and my other battle buddy would just have to sit there.
I still haven't confirmed this, but I did find out more information on the homemade grenade that they actually make. I believe they either talk about it in this video or the next video. But basically what they do is they take a energy drink called a Nonstop that's, you know, local to Ukraine. You know, they obviously remove the lid or whatever, but they fill it with, you know, explosives and, you know, charge, detonator, all that stuff. And they use that instead of grenades a lot of the time because of the effects that those have. I don't quite know at this point. I'm still trying to figure this out. If thermobaric grenade and their homemade grenade, the Nonstop grenade, if we want to call it that, are 2 different things, or when they say thermobaric, they're also talking about that Nonstop.
And think, like, how the bloody hell do we take these guys? Like, there's no immediate solution other than a really big explosive to sort of, you know, deal with these guys. So we had to deem that objective that position occupied for now. We couldn't really do much about it, but at the same time, they couldn't really affect us. So we made sure to pass it on to higher command, to our unit, that we're still enemy in here, but without taking care of them first, we couldn't push further east. So we elected then to push back to Kyiv, and then from there we held until nightfall.
So at that point, it gets dark. The plan was, okay, we go, take the position, dig in, it gets dark, then our TDF guys will come and replace us.
We then get word over the radio that there were other positions further west that we missed and hadn't cleared. So me, Ryan, and one other went back. We then started clearing these other buildings behind us, right? And one of them we got told was a potential machine gun nest for a PKM.
I took myself and 2 other guys to the last objective and had the other guys get back on the main route and just told them, you know, keep pushing out, keep pushing out. Because at that point we had 1 building left to clear, it shouldn't be that big of a deal. So when we got to this building, it was dark by that point, so we were using white lights to try to clear a lot of the area out. We threw a grenade in first, and then I white lighted it. And I found a PKM. There's a PKM sitting there because it was a machine gun position for the Russians. I went to grab the PKM.
So he goes in, he grabs it, and he pokes his head there. And there's this Russian there getting a Russian there getting a frag grenade ready to throw. So Ryan pulls back, preps a grenade, leans in, throws it, and then you know, takes out the Stormzy unit there.
And when I did, I looked over and there was a Russian staring me in the face. He was basically hiding under this stairwell. So I popped back real quick, grabbed a grenade and chucked it around the corner and smacked him with it. Other than that, there was no real slip ups.
So that right there is another story of, you know, kind of not necessarily ensuring that the space that we're about to be putting ourselves in is absolutely clear before, you know, continuing our work. And you could see where that could obviously have gone the other direction.
And then we went back, cleared the other few positions. This is in the middle of the night now as well too.
We finally got those guys back, and I'm looking up at the weather, and I'm like, dude, this is a clear night. Like, this is not gonna be good. If they have a thermal drone, they're gonna see exactly where we are, like when we exfil, and they're gonna wreck us with mortars. But thank God, and this is like why I say we're lucky in a lot of ways. We had a big rainstorm roll in. So it's super cloudy, it's raining. Of course, we're all getting wet, which I was fine with anyways because it was hot as freaking balls that day. And so rain comes in. Eventually they make our way back, the TDF come, and they exfil us. We're walking out with a bunch of stolen loot that we had taken from these Russian positions. I think we got like 2 or 3 PKMs and a bag full of ammo and a bunch of grenades.
Behind us, we start seeing this like bright ass light come in, and we're like, okay, like what the f? And at first everybody's kind of confused, and for me it kind of f***ed my night vision as well because I had to flip it up and my eyes, like, it was just like bright light, like ah! And so Ryan is like, oh, that's just the TDF coming in, the lighting the way with a drone so they can see where they're walking. Like, you know, now that would be unthinkable. Like, if you did this now, you would get pasted within 2 seconds. But you know, they're just coming in, white lighting everything. Everybody knows now we're here. And
the Ukrainians were able to hold objective Kyiv for the, you know, next 2 to 3 weeks. So it gave us a better foothold in the village. So previously they were on the outskirts. Now, you know, they had positions all the way up further into, you know, what was contested area or what was Russian area, you know, another 500-600 meters. So now we have half that village taken back from the Russians. And at the same time that we were doing our push up there, the Ukrainians literally the next morning took positions further south from the Russians as well, because they lost their main avenue in the north to get guys in and out.
Later we were told by our Ukrainian guys that had moved forward to secure those positions that we were, after we cleared that, they were able to evacuate, I think, 3 of the bodies, like fallen soldiers that had been out there for months, and they weren't able to retrieve just due to the intensity of the AO.
One of the things that they mention is basically the fact that because of the manpower that they're going out there with, because of the equipment that they're going out there with, if you become if you become killed in action, that there's basically no way, if they're, you know, taking gunfire, if they're involved in a heavy, you know, firefight or engagement, that they're going to be able to get you out of there. I've heard people kind of say this thing, and I'm of the same belief because I know of people that have, you know, been killed in action, and subsequently what happened, because, you know, no soldier left behind and all that stuff, is we end up doing a lot of things to try and recover their body, and in the process we lose a lot more soldiers, Marines, whatever it is. So just personally for me, my mentality is if I'm already dead, that, you know, it's just my body, you know, at that point. So if I can be recovered at some point without taking casualties, that's preferred. It's not worth losing another 3 lives and then collecting my body in the process. So that's just my stance on it. If you have a particular stance or perspective on that, put that down in the comment section.
And that we ended up killing something between like 10 to 15 Russians in those positions. And then there was one position actually that we did miss entirely, and the Russians there just like didn't do shit. They stayed in that position for like 36 hours, and then we saw them crawling away on a thermal cam. They like crawled in the swamp and ran away. And apparently they were intercepting a bunch of Telegram messages as well from these guys, like, what's happening? Oh my God, what's going on? And then they all just like crawled away, which was funny.
Good operation. I think that was probably the first like operation where the Ukrainian command was like, okay, these guys know what they're doing. You know, we're not going to babysit them. We'll just give them operations, and then, you know, whatever they need to do it, they'll get it.
If you're not subscribed to this channel, you can do that by tapping on this photo. If you'd like to support the channel, you can do that by feeding the algorithm down below. If you're feeling really generous, you can check the channel description for the channel membership. There is a number 2 portion to this incident, to this video, to this combat situation where several soldiers are killed. I've been asked to do the video by subscribers, kind of cover that situation, and I may do that. But if I do it, because of the sensitive nature involved in several soldiers in the number 2 portion dying, if I do make that video, I'm not quite sure that I'll make it public.